Hello, Year 6. Here we are for our science session today. Now, moving on from our electricity and circuits work last term, we're now thinking, here I come, we're now thinking about how we can group organisms according to their characteristics. So what we know about something will allow us to put it in the correct group. Okay, so these are a variety of organisms, so living beings. And what I'd like you to do is with those 8 categories, plant, mammal, amphibian, bird, reptile, insect, crustacean, and arachnid, I'd like to think which one is an example of number 1. Sorry, which is an example of a plant? Is it number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8? Okay, so if you could write down the number next to the grouping, that would be perfect. Pause the video while you do that, please. Okie dokie. And if we look through, see how you've got on. So our first one is that reptile, the second one a mammal, the third one a bird, the fourth one an amphibian, the fifth one an insect, the sixth one fish, seventh one plant, eighth one mollusk, ninth one arachnid, and 10th one crustacean. So we can see there's 10 groupings there on those. Now, with these groupings, I wonder if you can identify which feature of them allowed you to understand what they were. So what was it about a reptile which made you know what it was? What was it about a mammal that made you know what it was? That orange beast flowing through the water, how did you know it was a fish? Okay, have a think about how you know that, okay? If there's anybody there for you to discuss it with, have a little chat about it. But if not, we'll go through some definitions of these different types, and that'll help you then do a sorting activity yourself in due course. Okay, now there's 2 types broadly. We initially start by sorting between plants and animals. Plants are normally stuck to the ground, anchored to the ground, and animals are not. That's broadly speaking, that's not completely true about every plant, because obviously some plants float and what have you, but broadly speaking, they're stuck to the animal, stuck to the ground. There are lots of ways of grouping plants and animals once we get into those subsections, according to their characteristics. Example of that is the vertebrates and invertebrates. Vertebrates are animals such as ourselves that have got a backbone. Invertebrates are animals that do not have a backbone. That includes animals with an exoskeleton, so an outside skeleton like a beetle. Okay, and a snail there is another example. So you can see there's different types within animals. Okay. Other ways that you can split these, further split these down, in vertebrates, they include mammals, amphibians, reptiles, fish, and birds. Now, they've got backbones in common, so they're all in the backbone group, the vertebrates group, but there are lots of differences between these. Now, mammals have warm blood, okay, and they've either got fur or hair. Their babies, when they're born, they come out of the other animal, and they're alive. They're not eggs, okay, in general. And the females feed the offspring with their own milk, okay. So as we do with humans, because we're mammals, other mammals, such as you can see a stag, a deer, and a kitten or a cat, also their babies get their milk from their mothers. Birds are also warm-blooded vertebrates, but they've got feathers and beaks. Most of them, obviously we know because of penguins that it's not all, but most of them can fly. Rather than giving live birth to babies, they give birth to eggs, which develop into their young, so they gradually grow. Now here we've got some more animals, so neither of these are plants. We've got fish, which are cold-blooded. These are both groups of vertebrates. Cold-blooded vertebrates that live entirely underwater. They've got fins and gills to take in oxygen from water. Okay, so they take their oxygen from the water. They don't need to go outside of it. Reptiles are also cold-blooded vertebrates with dry, scaly skin, but they usually lay their eggs on land, okay, so they're land dwellers. Amphibians can live both on land and in the water. They begin life with gills but develop lungs as they grow, okay. Now, within the invertebrates, in the same way as the vertebrates can be broken into different groupings, invertebrates can be broken into different groupings too. Okay, we've got the insect. They've got 6 legs and generally 2 pairs of wings. So we can see some examples of insects there. We can see mollusks as well. So mollusks are invertebrates that are animal without that backbone, with soft, unsegmented bodies. Many have a hard outer shell. Okay, and our crustacean is those animals which are exoskeletons, many legs and antennae. Okay, so we can see crabs as an example and prawns as an example there. Some people use the term insect to describe all creepy crawlers. So this is important to remember. Sometimes we accidentally make mistakes with our scientific language. Insects only are those animals which have 6 legs and normally 2 pairs of wings. Okay. Because you've got some other animals here. Arachnids, which have got 8 jointed legs. So if we think of spiders, and some of the sets of legs at the front are sensory, so they can tell what's going on by using their legs at the front. Okay, we've got echinoderm, which are invertebrate with spiny skin. So starfish or sea urchins. Okay, we've got annelids with no legs and a segmented body, such as an earthworm. So we see many examples of these different invertebrates as we go around. If we look in a park or a garden. Furthermore, we've got myriapods. Okay, these are with many legs and body segments, such as centipedes. Okay. Right, guys, you've listened really well. Thank you for that. Okay, your task now is to complete a sorting exercise. So you're going to need to look at a classification tree. And that classification tree will allow you to identify which animal goes in which section of the organisms. And furthermore, what I'd like you to do is to try and identify some features of that grouping. So one of those 8 or 10 groupings. Now, as well as that, if you could become a bit of an expert in one. Now, we've previously seen some stellar homework from people such as Imani, Annalie, and people like that who've done wonderful scientific label diagrams. And I'd really like if we could push the boat out again. Could you have a go at researching one of these beings, one of these organisms, and becoming an expert in it? Can you find one that's a bit unusual? Can you find a mammal that other people won't have heard of? Can you find an arachnid that isn't a standard spider? Can you find something that's really, really interesting? And draw a diagram, label the diagram, label the features of that, and label the features of it that demonstrate which grouping of organism it goes into, please. So it's 2 tasks. Initially, it's the sheep, but then it's also that label diagram as well, please. Guys, well done for concentrating as I speak through these slides. I know I speak a bit quickly. I will try and get better at this over the next few weeks. Look after yourselves. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.